Hello, everybody. This is Hades, and welcome to another episode of Anatomy of Sci-Fi. And today we're covering the Terran Raven. With me, I have Zappy,
Hello.
and we got a brand new member who joined us through the forum. His name is Quinn, and he's from Great Britain. Say hi.
Hello.
And, well, about the Protoss Raven. We do see the Raven for a while. We've seen it in
Did
the
you
first
just say the
campaign.
Protoss Raven?
Oh shit. Okay, sorry. Terran Raven. So yeah,
There
just
you
because it derives from Protoss technology in the campaign, don't it?
Good save.
Yeah, there you go. So okay, the peculiar thing about the Raven is that it is not technically an attack unit. It is more of a support role. It's kind of like an infestor in a way. Yes, I have to compare to the Circumzerg players here. It cannot attack by itself. It has no guns. However, it manufactures things that can either attack or defend your forces. So, first up, we have the auto turret. My biggest issue is that turret is dropped from an incredible height, and it's just working right away. Zappy, I really have issue with that. How the hell would a piece of metal just survive that kind of impact? I mean, they're not floating right above the ground, are they?
No, I mean, it's a very robust construction.
Yeah, but
There are fair amounts of equipment that are airdropped today. Granted, most of those are with parachutes, but it seems reasonable to believe, all right, so this isn't the best example I've ever used, but
well, just state to me the
justification by
effects of metal
comparison.
impact. Just
Well, I
effect
was going
of
to say
metal
justification by
impact.
comparison. They also orbital drop mules and in the campaign Marines and Marauders into combat directly.
So we could assume that the auto turret is set up in such a way that no amount of G forces would really interfere with its mechanics.
Well, I wouldn't say no amount. I would say that they're set up to survive a landing such as that, which you could do given, there are certain criteria you would want to include when you're designing something like that. You want it to have, a robust enough construction that if, one little thing gets dinged out of place, it's not going to instantly become useless. You want to have, you don't want the metal to brittle so that it shatters on impact. There are things like that you would have to go through.
Yeah, I'm just thinking. I'm trying to remember when it would reach terminal velocity because we don't know exactly how high the Raven. Yeah, I'm trying to. We don't know exactly how high up the Raven is in game, so it's possible that in a realistic scenario, the Raven would fly in quite low to drop the auto turret, so that it hits the ground, but it's not hitting the ground at such a speed that it's just going to crater itself.
So it's kind of like in that cinematic where you see Raynor rescuing Warfield, and there are those Banshees dropping low to drop those bombs on those Zerglings. And you do see that little animation where the Raven actually has a point where it shoots that auto turret, so maybe that's just a shorthand of what it actually would do in a physical world, whereas it will fly down and drop it from maybe instead of like 500 feet, maybe just like 50 feet.
Well, I mean, let's think about it for a second. So in an atmosphere similar to Earth, to reach terminal velocity, something has to fall about 18 meters, I think. Pretty sure about that. I should know this. Anyway,
Could you convert that to feet?
18 meters, which is about 50 feet.
There we go.
Which is terribly low. Well, it's a little more than 50 feet. Anyway, it's terribly low for any airborne craft to be going that's not intending to land. I think it's safe to assume that this thing is hitting terminal velocity before it lands.
Okay, so it must have some kind of a cushioning system to.
Notably, there is when you launch it, it kind of deploys midair, and there's like a large flat surface that hits the ground that could be used as a kind of parachute on the front of it or kind of thing. Does that make sense? Like you increase the cross section so you get more drag, so its terminal velocity isn't quite as fast.
So it's not aerodynamic at all, so it slows down as much as possible. That does make sense because you don't want that thing to pick up speed.
A nice hard shield that impacts the ground. So it lands on a rock, it just dents the shield. It doesn't dent anything important.
Yeah, I should have done that from the start. You see the picture of the auto turret right here, and it's like you said, the landing pad has a very wide area, which is something you would want to create a drag. But it has some. What I see is a very lot of sensitive components. You see the ammo belt.
Yeah, I think the actual base looks a little small for the idea of a landing pad, because I don't know exactly how big this is meant to be for scale, but if that's a remotely man-portable weapon, then the auto turret could easily just fall over if it doesn't land on a flat surface. So,
well, I imagine with the impact that it causes, it would dig in with those side claws in a way. No.
Well, yeah, that's what I was about to say. I think those little claw things there. All right, so first off, obviously, you do have to be very careful when you're launching this out of a plane, or out of Raven, rather, so that it lands in the proper manner. It doesn't, like, rotate in the air. You need to be knowledgeable of air currents. You need to know which direction you're dropping it, things like that. It might be reasonable to believe that it. Actually, no, that's kind of stupid. No,
we'll say it anyway.
It's got a large base on it still. I mean, it's not so large that it's going to slow it down enormously, but if you put enough mass in the bottom of it there, the center of mass should be sufficiently low that when it lands, as long as one of those teeth looking things hits the ground first, it will fall facing
the auto turret looks
direction.
Big at the top, but we don't really see what's underneath that giant faceplate that's protecting the turret itself.
Well, I mean, notably that faceplate has more armor at the bottom of it that would help in this situation. Additionally, it would be something as simple as making the base out of a denser material than you make the gun itself.
Yeah, and you could go a variety of ways. You could make it hollow. You could
the gun itself is going to be mostly hollow, so you would just make like okay, so you made the gun out of something like carbon fiber. I mean, we can see that very clearly. Some of the parts are made out of metal, but say the majority of the gun is made out of carbon fiber, and then you make the base out of solid steel or something,
which makes sense because those things are expendable, so why waste precious materials to make something that will last?
The weapon itself it's a 12mm, so that suggests the auto turret isn't actually that large. If it is very lightweight, then it probably would survive an impact pretty well.
Yeah, I think it just looks big for the sake of the game. I don't think it's really large. It wouldn't be really large in real life. So,
well, I think just hit it on the point with it's something that's generally a man-portable weapon.
Yeah, I would imagine it's small enough for maybe a Marine to carry you with, just a turret, just a.
I mean, okay, let me rephrase that. I wouldn't want to carry it around, but like in a battle. But if I had to,
keep in mind you have the armored power suit. You're not just by yourself. Like
so.
Well, if we're going down the kind of the wild mass guessing, it looks like it could have been originally a delivery service that you have drop pods, and the turret would be deployed separately because it's a bigger weapon. It would take up more space in the pod, and then it's a case of just adding in a computer component. So instead of dropping it and carrying it, you get what I'm trying to say.
Right, you just auto deploy it from the sky. Yeah, as a method of saving transport space.
Yeah, I mean, Raven is a very computerized, high-tech unit, so it would have the sufficient, CPU capacity to calculate how to drop it, so to minimize the damage to the actual turret. But the next thing you have is the Seeker missile, which is okay. Side note: I fucking hate those things. I'm a Zerg player. It's just a bane. It's like a little widow mine you can shoot, and it looks kind of like those submersible mines that you see that take out the submarines.
Yeah, nobody likes the Seeker missile,
except the Terrans. But screw them.
I don't know. I'm going to be honest. In my experiences as Terran, even when I'm using a lot of Ravens, I find point defense drones to be far more useful than Seeker missiles. I mean, yes, Seeker missiles, you occasionally get that big, shiny boom where you like take out 15 things with a couple of them, but I don't know. It's a much bigger gamble.
Yeah, I have a very nice close-up picture of it provided to us by Google Images. Thank you. And it looks kind of hollow, like there's an electric current inside it, and it just has a bunch of plates around it.
Electric current inside it.
Okay, I mean a lot. The thing sparks left and right. There's the light shining. It looks like the fucking holy grail.
Ooh, and this was assembled hastily.
Yeah, and the explosion. Quinn, do you see any stats on that thing? Like, what's the weapon called? Do they even have a description for it?
It's called a secret missile.
Well, yes, but I mean,
yeah, I'm just. No, I can't find much about it. It's just a
hold on.
missile.
The secret missile deploys a secret missile which activates after 5. Oh, okay.
Right, it's called a secret missile.
Okay, so we got this little bomb, and it has spikes on the outwards, which I imagine are some sort of either automated device or maybe some kind of a canister for explosives. But I don't think that's the case. I think that's just for detonation, whereas what's in the center is okay. Maybe it carries shrapnel. You know, kind of like one of those.
I think the most likely thing is a sort of old school proximity detector. Detects if there's something too close to the seeker missile by breaking if something gets too close to the seeker missile because it's so close that it broke the little extrusion.
Well, I could have mutants.
It's like saying, okay, I'm going to shoot this seeker missile at you, and if it hits you in the face, great, it's going to blow up. But if you try to move out of the way and just one of those little spiky things hits you, it's still going to blow up.
I think it also could be used as a homing device because the seeker missile follows one specific selected target. It's discriminatory. So
how would those spikes help with that,
though? It could be heat sensors. Could be a variety of things. You have heat-seeking missiles. You have a lot of equipment inside that targets.
Right, but why would you put those in spikes like that?
It could.
Well, it can't go inside because there's the explosive payload inside there. So.
Right, but think about how those heat-seeking missiles you talked about operate.
Well, there's a lot of that image has lightning arcs and stuff coming off. That does suggest that these missiles aren't exactly stable. Maybe the sensors are put on those poles because they're delicate, and whatever's inside the missile might damage its own sensor systems.
That's actually a good point. I mean, it's electric discharge, so we don't want to mess with that.
But if you've got manufacturing systems capable of creating sensors that are that delicate, that sophisticated, that low tolerance, why then do you have a bomb that is arcing electricity left and right? Why can't you just make a bomb that doesn't suck?
Well, it's assembled hastily, and they want damage and efficiency. It's kind of like a boss
assembling these sophisticated advanced sensors hastily. I think you either have to assemble. Sorry, go ahead.
It could be a modular design, in that basically somebody has a bomb design and somebody has a sensor design, and they're not built to work together. It's just somebody's cobbled them together because it worked.
I would say it's because you have
sense on a small scale, but I mean, think about the fact that there are these ravens everywhere. Why would you cobble together, so to speak, every single time?
No, look.
It's not like you have to order the bomb from one manufacturer and the sensors from another, and then they just get both shipped to the Raven, and then the Raven launches it out.
No, the most efficient way for the Raven to work, and I can't think of any better way, is just there are parts that are already there. It doesn't make them from the scratch. It already has the sensors there. It just puts them together like Meccano, just one piece stuck to another. That's why it seems like it's not one big amorphous blob. It is amorphous blob, but it's not one unified part. It's a bunch of parts that are stuck together. So maybe that's just the quickest way to have those sensors.
The only other thing it could possibly be is some kind of propulsion. Maybe it's because it looks like it's an anti-gravity capable bomb. Maybe that's part of the anti-grav system.
Anti-gravity? We don't deal with magic here.
However the hell it stays airborne, it's sure as hell not going to be... Actually, it's not. It is kind of aerodynamic. It's a sphere, but something makes it float and turn and maneuver. And they don't look...
Yeah, but... Okay, so we can speculate it's either a tracking system
or... The bomb lacks conventional propulsion, from what we can see.
It seems relatively for its size pretty light because it's empty inside, so maybe those are some kind of a propulsion systems. But what concerns me is what would be the explosive payload? What could generate extra electricity and then when be unstable, create a kind of electric current and then explode on such impact? Zappy, any thoughts?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that last? I missed that.
It's
sorry.
What, judging by that picture, what do you think is the actual explosive that is inside the Seeker missile? It's electric.
I don't think the electricity has any relevance to the explosive. I'm going to be honest. I don't like the electricity at all. As has been established by some of the things I've said earlier, it kind of it just doesn't make sense with having the idea of having advanced sensors on board the Seeker missile, or hastily assembled nonsense. I don't like I don't think it's related. I think the electricity is bad. That said, the explosive.
Hey everybody, Zappy thinks electricity is bad. So yeah, we shouldn't use Skype or computers anymore.
I think the electricity on the Seeker missile is bad. The random arcing going back and forth around the Seeker missile.
So it's like the Zerg spikes, except for Terran. Like we have spikes,
kind
and Terrans have electricity. There we go. It looks like it's arcing from one node to the next. So
like this would be a lot. The whole Seeker missile would be a lot easier to describe without that arcing. We could say things like, all right, well, the explosive is likely this. Whereas with the arcing, we can say definitively, okay, it's not something like C4, where the arcing would set it off. We could say things like, all right, well, in the Heart of the Swarm iteration of the Seeker missile, it's likely sitting there locking onto a target and then just like rocketing off towards that target, as opposed to the Wings of Liberty Seeker missile, where it kind of like locked in and moved at the same time. But that's kind of nullified by this arcing electricity in front of it, which is almost certainly going to blind any sensors that you have, even the ones out on the edge there. I don't know. I don't like the electricity.
Actually, the more I look at this picture, the more I think that those aren't actually sensors. It looks like the spark is actually coming from the top of one of those spiky things. So maybe they're there for from propulsion, and that spark is just like a discharge caused by all that energy.
What kind of propulsion are you going to have that's going out radially in an angle, or radially from the object, perpendicular to the direction of travel?
It's the future, man. I don't know.
It's the future, man. I thought we didn't deal in magic.
It's a magic feature.
Intended to be used in Void as well. If the mines are meant to operate in space, it would need the ability to maneuver in every direction. So it would need engines on multiple faces.
But none of these things are pointing backwards.
Well, kinda, I guess.
I mean, the best you have is that second row, which is pointing slightly backwards, which is going to be wildly inefficient for forward travel.
Maybe it's just for stabilization purposes, but okay, that's enough for the Seeker missile, because it's just a bomb. There are ways to make a bomb move around its today's technology.
I agree. I think we're overthinking this. I think it's just an explosive
device. It's based on Protoss magic, for fuck's sake. You can tell from the campaign.
Okay, no, I don't want to say it's based on Protoss magic. I think we can say simply it's an explosive with a rocket attached. It's got that little laser, and it spends time in the air to try to lock onto a target, and then it just rockets off towards it.
Which, by the way, is bullshit. Why can't you just go and pick a location instead of a unit? You think it would be easy enough? But
I'm sure
I'm
sure they could pick a location, but why pick a location when you could pick a unit?
Because the unit can fly off, and, well, we've seen my Muta Micro at some point. Alright, so point defense drone is next, and this one is a lot more retarded because, well, Zappy, you have a bigger bone to pick with it than I do, so why don't you just explain to our viewers why this is a whole bunch of bullshit about the point defense drones?
Oh, there's plenty good about the point defense drone. I may have misled you earlier. I mean, it makes a fair amount of sense with a lot of projectiles. So the basic idea of it is that the point defense drone shoots down anything that has a projectile animation in game. This includes things like marauders, hydralisks, queens, corruptors, all forms of Zerg anti-air, actually, except for the...
There's a big list on the actual wiki.
Yeah.
Marauders, Vikings, Banshees,
I got the wrong one.
Thors. Battle cruisers, really?
Yep, it stops battle. Well, it's not very efficient at stopping battle cruiser shots because of the volume of shots that they fire, but it does.
Well, it's limited to one shot takes up 10 energy. Yes,
I think it's less than that.
Yeah. Its defensive abilities use up 10 energy per shot.
Yeah, 10 energy per shot, and it spawns with 200 energy. Yes.
Yeah, units that attack multiple times, like Vikings or Phoenix, will drain multiple doses of energy.
Yeah, so it is not unlimited, which is good. Thank you, Blizzard, for acknowledging that you can just have unlimited shit, like a Marine never reloading his gun, etc., etc.
I like that you can feedback them.
Then what?
You can feedback the point defense drone.
Oh, I like that.
It's pretty funny.
I
laugh when it
It's
happens.
one good counter. Thank God for that. Too bad Zerg doesn't have anything.
Hold on a second. There's two good counters, because Marines counter everything. The Marine shot isn't intercepted by the point defense drone, so it just walks up and shoots it.
What?
Marines counter everything. Why are you surprised by this?
Okay, I'm not surprised by that, but okay, I guess this is
because
like
they don't
kind
have
of
a shot
wanted
animation
shit.
in game. That's why.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's
also, if we want to expand that, the shots could be too small or too quick for the point defense drone to accurately intercept.
If you're going by the whole, it doesn't have animation, I think it's the speed. Because you can see the battlecruiser being, shooting, you can see the stalker shooting. So maybe it just, the point defense drone, as bad as it is, it cannot stop a bullet. Except with his face.
It might need talking in computer terms, it might be that it can only target slow projectiles. And that would mean that even if, by our standards, the shot is fast, like a missile is fast to us, but to a computer that deals in millisecond processes, that missile is relatively slow, and so it can be targeted quickly.
Also, there's a theory I had. You guys heard of those reactive armors they have on tanks? Like, they detonate the charge way before it hits the tank.
Yes.
Right? My guess is it doesn't actually shoot down the projectile. What it could do is just, it gets in the way of it, shoots down maybe like some kind of a dense particle in its way, and it just either deflects it or it prematurely detonates it. So, like, let's say Immortal Shot is too fast, but Stalker, it has a something phase disruptor thingy, and if you, let's say, get in the way of it, it doesn't go through you. It just gets kind of absorbed, like the Immortal Shot, except it's slower, so it can be actually countered by deploying defense drone, whatever it's called.
All right, hold on a second. Let me see if I understand what you're saying here. You are suggesting that it launches a small explosive charge in the way.
No, not an explosive charge. I said a particle. A particle.
Why?
Because, well, it has.
Well, like,
you
why
can see it
is that
like
better
a
than
laser.
a laser? Why is that better than a laser?
I think a particle would probably have to reach relativistic velocities before it's going to make much
You'd have
of a
to have some obscene method of accelerating these particles and then launching them launching them along accurate vectors to intercept also very rapidly moving particles, or that are projectiles that are being launched at you, as opposed to a laser where you're like, okay, you only have to keep track of one thing, which is the particle or projectile that you're intercepting, and then you just point and shoot.
Okay, so for you debunked, it's a laser pointer now.
Yeah, it's a big laser pointer.
That would certainly cover the missiles, and depending on how some of the Protoss weapons work.
So wait, how do you stop a laser
like
with another laser?
Weapons.
Hold on,
sorry.
How do you stop a laser with another laser? Because that's kind of
Okay, hold on. What do you think is a laser that it's stopping?
Okay, battlecruiser shots, stalker shots.
Those are plasma-based weapons, at least in the case of the battlecruiser.
So laser to plasma, enlighten us.
Plasma, heated gas, launched at something.
How would light stop plasma?
Right. Laser hits it, heats it up further, breaks the containment. All right, so the plasma is being launched at a very high temperature, but it's obviously not so hot that it just breaks apart and dissipates in the atmosphere or in space, for that matter. If you hit it with a laser, you can heat it up more and break whatever is containing it, or if it's not being contained, just heat it up more, and basic gas law, it will expand.
Oh, okay. So that now the whole, gigantic shot of the Tempest being encountered by this little piece
I don't want to talk about the Tempest. No, the Tempest is not necessarily plasma. It does not look like any of the other plasma.
Okay, but you can agree it looks like it has some form of containment in a shot, right?
Kind of.
Yeah, so the point defense...
What is it containing, though? How is it containing it? What is the containment? I see.
Magic.
Damn, we had a good theory for what the Tempest shot was a while back, and I'm gonna have to ask
on
Alice
that its own episode, which we will cover later. Calm down, dude.
No, I just have to ask Alazavris and Ponzi because we talked about this a while back.
Who are not here because they are too busy doing something other than their responsibility. Yes, I called you guys out on the episode. Deal with it. So, we explain it. It's a laser. Zappy found a way for a laser to be able to destroy a gigantic ball of death that is the Tempest particle.
No, we don't know how it stops the Tempest shot because we don't know what a Tempest shot is.
Okay.
We can find ways that it will stop other things.
Fair enough.
Off the top of my head, I can't think of anything else that I wouldn't know how it stops. But the Tempest shot, I don't know.
All right. So this episode has been going on a bit long. So, what was the last thing we had to mention? The upgrade, Corvid reactor. Yeah.
Fun fact from Steve: Corvid is, I believe, the genus name for ravens.
Yeah, like you see that with Caduceus and I'm not sure Behemoth. That's because the battlecruisers were large. But there's some crappy names as well, like Speed Upgrade, Speed or Tunneling Claws. Like you couldn't get more creative, Blizzard, really.
What else are you gonna call it? Allow them to tunnel.
I would say extraneous, subterranean digging.
That's just unnecessarily pedantic.
Well, isn't calling it a Corvid reactor? How about calling it a Raven reactor? There you go.
That's essentially what they're calling it. Corvid is the genus name for ravens.
Yeah, well, not everybody knows Latin. That's what I'm saying.
Well, learn.
Well, fun fact.
If you're going to conquer the galaxy, you've got to learn Latin.
There you go.
Wow, you better hope I never actually read my Latin dictionary. All right. So, the Corvid reactor, I think it just it develops better tech for the reactor. Like maybe it gives it more plasma or whatever it's powered by.
Well, I think the Raven was still a prototype in Wings of Liberty, wasn't it? So maybe the Corvid reactor is purpose-built for the Raven, whereas whatever comes in it as standard was
bootlegged from something else, right?
Yeah. It was just coupled together for prototype.
Wow, okay. That was explained very quick. So, I'm glad we covered everything. I mean, turrets, point of entrance, it's very well explained. Went a lot well than Proasinus would. But we still have to cover the Tempest episode so Zappy can stop raging.
I'm just going to call up Alazavris tomorrow.
You do that. And in the meantime, I'm just going to switch to Terran and play with point of entrance.
Win everything because you picked Terran?
Oh, well, actually, I don't have to even make Ravens. I can just pump Marines all day.
I'm sorry, who needs gas? You're playing Terran. Remember
gas?
that.
What is that? Is that like a new form of A move?
It was spoken like a true Terran. I was about to say now you're speaking like a Terran, but then I switched halfway through to spoken like a true Terran, and it came out really weirdly.
I'm a Zerg. Oh, and actually, no, I'm a changeling. I'm a changeling. I'm a Terran. All right, guys. So
remove all the keys except for T and A from your keyboard. They're the only ones you need.
Zappy, shut up. All right, so this has been a very informative episode. I want to thank Quinn for joining the AoS team, family, whatever you want to call it. What's a dysfunctional family? Yeah. Thank you a lot for your input. You really contributed.
Yeah, there's a lot of drinking problems. We had an intervention for Steve a while back. It's an intense family.
Yeah, just do me a favor and leave me out of the Tempest episode because I think that's going to be a Psy Storm in a teacup, and I want to be well clear.
Oh, don't worry. I'll look for a psychologist to cope with Zappy's problems. Okay, so
my brain will melt by the end.
Yeah. This has been Anatomy of Starcraft Raven episode. I'm Hades.
I'm Zappy.
And I am very, very tired.
And we'll see you next time. Peace out, guys.